All right, our next speaker this afternoon is Ahmed Ashraf, a senior at Peace Academy, the private Islamic school here in Tulsa. Ahmed is currently the president of Peace Academy's National Honor Society and the president of a small school company developed in the junior achievement class. He's also a National Merit semifinalist and plans to continue his education at the University of Tulsa. So please welcome Ahmed Ashraf.
Thank you, everyone, and I'd like to say it's an honor for me to be here as one of the three panelists. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, I'd like to greet you all with the greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum. May the peace and blessings of God be upon you all. Today, I'll talk to you about food from the Islamic perspective. And let me just move this here. And I'll be covering what is unlawful and lawful to eat in Islam. Many of you might be wondering, when you see whoever has a Muslim friend, they might not eat something. So I'll be discussing what can we and can we not eat. I'll also be talking about the rituals of fasting and the obligations we have during fasting and our holidays and how they relate to food. So let's start with lawful and unlawful foods. What are Muslims forbidden from eating? And the basic rule regarding that would be that anything that harms or alters the human body is forbidden for us to eat. And any intoxicants such as beer, wine, drugs, we can't consume any of that because we know it's harmful for our body and we shouldn't use it. So what about pork? That's probably one of the biggest questions many of us here have. Pork isn't an intoxicant, but why are Muslims forbidden from eating it? And we don't know if there's an underlying reason behind whether there's a health issue or not, but we are forbidden because God told us so. He told us so in the Quran that we should not eat pig, and that's the number one reason we do so, to follow God's command. But it's not only pork that Muslims are forbidden from eating. Also, carnivorous animals and birds of prey. We cannot drink blood or anything containing blood. And so, when I come to blood here, something like blood pudding, we can't drink that or eat that. But something like meat or chicken that had blood, as long as the blood is taken away, it's okay to eat. But if it still contains blood, then we must get rid of the blood before we eat it. Now, a second section covers if something that we normally can eat, it might be forbidden because of the way it was killed. And so, animals killed in the name of anyone other than God, we are forbidden from eating. Animals that are improperly slaughtered. And when I come to improperly slaughtered, you might be wondering, what is properly slaughtered? And so, an animal that is properly slaughtered is an animal that is quickly and swiftly killed. Swiftly killed as to prevent the animal from feeling any kind of pain. And so, when you slaughter this part of the neck, cutting the two jugular veins and the two carotids, and the trachea, but you do not reach the spinal cord. And so death happens by loss of blood, not by shock or by constant pain. And so even when we come to slaughtering, you must be merciful and humane to the animal. And something really interesting is that other animals shouldn't be around the animal being slaughtered, so we don't cause it any psychological trauma. But even in slaughtering, you're reminded of mercy and compassion. Animals already dead, before being slaughtered, we're not allowed to eat. Animals that are strangled, beaten to death, killed by another animal, or falling from a cliff. And here's a verse from the Quran, chapter 5, verse 6, that clarifies many of these things. It tells us, "Forbidden to you is that which dies of itself, and blood, and the flesh of swine, and that on which any other name than that of God has been invoked, and the strangled animal, and that beaten to death, and that killed by a fall, and that killed by being smitten with the horn, and that which wild beasts have eaten, except what you slaughter, and what is sacrificed on stones, and that you divide by the arrows. And so here it adds more for us to know, that it includes an animal that should not be impaled. So again, we go to slaughtering, the easiest and least painful of all. Animals that are hunted for sport are forbidden. We should only kill an animal if we're going to eat it or benefit from it, whether we're going to use it for tools or skin or whatever we need. As long as it's benefiting us, it's okay. And animals offered as sacrifice. So again, it goes to the point that if it's not for food or benefit, it should not be harmed. And so anything else is okay. And you'll see here, thank God, chocolate, burgers, fries, anything. And if you look over here, I have some fish and shrimp, and it comes to a point where God tells us anything from the sea is okay to eat, whether it's carnivorous or not. So shark and all that good stuff is okay. So when we come to the sea, you might be thinking, what if you throw a pig in the water? Does that make it okay? And what I mean by coming from water, meaning it has to be living there. So fish, shrimp, lobster, crab, whatever. But when you think about it, it's not just about why it's forbidden, because you could look at it as a test from God, because God gave us all these bounties and blessings, and then He said, just don't eat pork. And so when you look at it, it's a test from God to see if we are willing to obey Him and follow His guidance when He gave us all these, and be grateful for what He gave us. And a great analogy to that would be the story of Prophet Adam and Eve, and how they had hundreds of trees that they could eat from, except this one tree that they were forbidden from eating. And so this is a great analogy to the pig here and the alcohol.